All right, welcome to Hoops Tracker, your source for Colorado basketball. We have a special guest today, Coach Vic Schaefer, University of Texas, PC Coach of the Year. Coach Vic, thanks for coming on the show.
And thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today, and look forward to our visit.
Yes, sir. And Coach, it's been fun seeing you on the circuit. I saw you down at USA Basketball. I've seen you. I mean, we talked earlier, but I remember when you were coaching with Coach Blair at Texas A&M, and you guys made your run for the title and won the national championship. But for today, I wanted to talk and go back a little bit about your basketball journey because I don't think a lot of folks know, but used to be the head coach at Sam Houston State back in the 90s. And then 97, you went to Arkansas to be an assistant, and then you were an assistant at Texas A&M, and then you decided to throw your hat into the head coaching ring. Talk a little bit about your basketball journey because I think it's really special.
Yeah, it's unique for sure. I was going back to when I graduated in December from college, and then there's no jobs in December, and so I was a high school and a college baseball umpire, and my career actually almost went that direction. At one point, I was going to go to Joe Brinkman's umpiring school down in Florida and try to be a major league umpire. I was umpiring all the big high school games in the city and getting a lot of junior college games, and so. But in the spring, I got the job as the freshman boys high school coach at Milby High School, which is the oldest high school in the city, but I'm
Uh-huh.
the first freshman boys coach, oldest high school in the city.
Yeah.
Figure that out. So up until 1985, the ninth graders were on separate campuses. And in 1985, they moved the freshmen on campus with the 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. And so
Okay.
I coached the freshman boys for 2 years. Then I went to Sam Houston State as a men's assistant and worked for $4,800 for 9 months. Did that in 2 successive years
Yeah.
as a third assistant. Did all the jobs from video coordinator to DOB to game planning, scouting, recruiting, all that. So then
Mhm.
my father passed away real suddenly and during the second year, and so I finished out the season, went back to Houston, got my old freshman job back at Milby just to
Yeah.
keep an eye on my mother. And they had been married 43 years. And so went back and got that job. And then within 8 months, Sam Houston State called and asked if I was interested in their women's job. And at the time, they had just hired the assistant from Missouri, a lady named Debbie Adams. And
Mhm.
I told them, I said, "Well, you just hired Debbie Adams." They said, "Yes, and she's already left." So,
Wow.
long story short, I turned down the opportunity to go 3 different times, finally interviewed on the very last day that I could possibly put my hat in the ring, got the job a month after signing date. There were 3 kids on the team, and I had 0 contacts in the women's game.
Wow.
Signed 4 kids out of the Houston Chronicle and 4 junior college kids that had been picked over 3 times, and
Yeah.
that was my first recruiting class, and
Okay.
so was at Sam 7 years, really enjoyed our time there, really didn't wanna leave. It had taken me a while to kind of figure it out, and,
Uh-huh.
and we had had some success late in my career there, and, but we had just had the twins, and, I was $25,000 in debt, my wife and I.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so making $35,000 a year as a head coach, Coach Blair offered me $53,000 salary, offered me $10,000 in camp, $1,000 in Reebok apparel, a golf membership at Pinnacle Country Club, and a courtesy car. Man,
Alright.
I hit the mother load. I was fired up. And, again, I really made that decision based on my family. The twins were, young. Holly and I were really struggling financially. And so I had to do it because I doubled my salary
Yeah.
and had to get us out of debt. And so I did that, go to Arkansas. We immediately go to the Final Four at Arkansas in 98. Had a good run there, and then was there another 5 years after that. And in 3, Coach Blair walks in my office and says, "Vic, the head coaching job at A&M's open. What do you think?" And I had gone to school at A&M, and I said, "Coach, you could win a national championship at A&M." And 8 years later, we did.
Yeah.
But I almost didn't go with him. I was offered the head coaching job at New Mexico State, and really and truly, I was going to New Mexico State in 2003, and at the very last second, A&M came in and offered me more money, quite a
Yeah.
bit, to come
Mhm.
be the associate head coach. And my mother was getting up in the years, and I
Yeah.
was afraid that if I took her grandkids to Las Cruces, New Mexico, she may never see them again. She lived in
Yeah.
Houston, and I
Yeah.
was right. She lived a year and a half, uh,
Wow.
1.5 years longer, and got to see them quite a bit because we were in College Station, which was
Yeah.
2 hours from her.
Yeah.
And so that was a good family decision as well. And
Mhm.
so then I'm there from '03 to 2012, win a
Mhm.
national championship in 11. And then in 2012, Scott Strickland, who's now the AD at Florida, he was the AD at Mississippi State, called and asked if I'd be interested in the Mississippi State job, and took that job in 12. And 5 years later, we were playing in the national championship game in 17 in Dallas, Texas, of all places, home state. So
Yeah.
been been quite a journey. Played back to back national championship games, 17, 18. My
Mhm.
19 team was probably the best team I ever had. That team was the number 1 seed, but we got unlucky in that we had to go to Oregon and play Oregon, who was the 2 seed. And UNESCO and that group, they were
Oh,
really good
man.
in pick and roll, and
Yep.
we got beat 88-84. That
Yeah.
team was the best team I've ever had. That team would
Wow.
have won the national championship that year, in my opinion,
Yeah.
and we just got unlucky. Had to go play a really good Oregon team in front of 13,000 Ducks,
Yeah.
and it was one of those games. I think you can count on one finger, if I'm not mistaken, how many
Mhm.
games my teams over the course of my head coaching career have lost when we scored 84.
I
You know, we had a good run there. I would not have left Mississippi State for anywhere in the country except the job right here at the University of Texas. I was literally born 2 blocks from here at Breckenridge Hospital. My
Mhm.
parents are both buried in a small town called LaGrange, Texas, about 60 miles from here. Obviously, I have a lot of contacts here, but to me, this is the best job in the country. It's a place where I feel like we can have a chance to win multiple championships each and every year. And it's the only job I would have left Mississippi State for. I loved Mississippi State. We loved our fans. We loved the community of Starkville. We loved the entire state of Mississippi. It was just
Yeah.
a really special relationship. The fans loved my team. We averaged
Yeah.
9,500 fans a night in a 25,000 person community. My team was a cult in that state with those Bulldog fans. They just really adored everything about my kids and our program. So it was really hard decision, but we made it, and we've been here now 5 years, and in our 5th year, we made it back to the Final Four. And they hadn't won a conference championship here since 2004.
Yeah.
Um, and in 5 years, we've been able to win 4 of them, whether it's a tournament championship or a regular season. So I'm proud of what we've been able to accomplish. My staff is incredible.
Yeah.
Been really fortunate. We've been able to recruit some really good players, and I have a really good university to sell. So it's been
Oh,
fun.
yeah.
Going into year number 41, not
Wow.
that old. I'll go out and get my 4-mile run in here in a little bit,
There
but
you go.
it's exciting. It's an exciting time, you know, this time of year when you start cranking up. We'll have our first practice next week.
Well, I was gonna say, you just talked about the last 2 years, 30 plus win seasons. I don't think Texas ever had that ever in its history, back to back, and then with the Final Four appearance last year. And man, you guys are one of the hottest teams coming up. Continuing with this, your background, who were some of your most influential mentors, and what lessons do you still get from them that kinda guide you today that you've taken?
Yeah. I've had some really good people that have shared themselves and taken it upon themselves to help a young coach like myself help me find my way. And I've certainly had, it's funny, it's a who's who of who's turned me down for jobs throughout the course of my career. I've applied for numerous jobs multiple times at multiple universities in the same universities throughout the course of my career. You just have to, I laugh, but that was God's plan. He didn't want me there on multiple
Mhm,
occasions, and he was really saving something special for me, as I got older and wiser and had more experience. But my first coach that I worked for, Coach Honey,
mhm,
at Bilby High School, he's in the Basketball Hall of Fame here in Texas, high school basketball, and just a tremendous Christian man, high character. He and his wife gave of themselves so much to our team and to
mhm.
the kids there at Milby. Then I go to Sam Houston State, work for a guy named Gary Moss, who really taught me the value of watching film. Every time he went to the film room, he'd ask me if I wanted to go with him, and I never turned him down.
Mhm.
Working for Coach Blair, he's in like 7 or 8 Hall of Fames. I mean,
Yeah,
he's obviously a legend and has done so much for our game. Being to be able to be around him for 15 years, as his assistant is just, I count that as a real blessing, and learned a lot from him. Probably nothing more valuable than realizing you can't do it by yourself. Surround yourself with great people and let them work.
yeah.
And I've been able to really do that and
Mhm,
not have a lot of turnover. And I think that's been a big key to my success. So, other people, there were some high school coaches, Phil Eaton, who coached at Pasadena High, who I learned a great deal from in a short period of time as a high school coach. I paid attention across the country to not just basketball coaches, but listening to a guy like Nick Saban,
mm,
the things that he values, the discipline that he values, the structure. Of course, I'm the son of a bird colonel in the United States Army, so I learned a lot about structure, commitment, being accountable from
mhm,
my father and my mother. And growing
mhm.
up in a Christian home, the values that you learn there are really, you can't put a price on them. But
Right.
I always pay attention to people in our industry, whether they're in basketball, football, whatever. There's certain people that I really listen to and pay attention to. And I just think that you can always learn. The day you think you know it all, it's probably the day you need to get out of coaching. And so I'm always attentive to things like that, to what they say, to a John Gordon, to people that I really respect and admire. So, it's hard to put really a guy like Jackie Sherrill, who's become
Mhm,
a dear friend of mine, a man who had great success in his football coaching career, but who's
mhm,
really made it a point to take me under his wing and talk to me about certain things in coaching that
mhm.
really have a value that, what, maybe he didn't get right the first time, but he learned
Yeah.
from. And yet at the same time, I believe, you know, he's really a smart man. And so, there's people like that I really value and trust. And,
Mhm.
if I need to run things by them or off of them, I'm able to do that.
No, that's great. So, coach, you've been coaching an awful long time. How would you describe your coaching philosophy in just a few words, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, I'm a creature of habit. Next week's going to be the same identical first practice I've had for the last 13 years as a head coach at Mississippi State and Texas. I'm a creature of habit. I believe in developing fundamentals. I believe in really instilling a discipline in that area where kids don't have to think, they just react.
Mm,
It's instinctive. The game becomes instinctive for them because we've done it so many times. You can put a kid through a scouting report and say, well, they're going to do this, they're going to do this, and going to do this. But then what happens when that team puts in a new play or 2
mhm.
or 3 for you that week? How you
Yeah.
gonna how you gonna guard it? You
Yeah.
guard it with your basics, your fundamentals, your instincts, and so,
Mhm.
I think for me, I'm a real accountable guy.
Mhm.
Excuses just don't matter. Nobody cares what your opponent listening when you got an excuse for everything. And so I try to instill that in our players to be accountable.
Mhm.
Um, and just to there is the game is really fair. I think it comes down to this. The game is really fair. You'll get out of it what you put into it.
Mhm.
And, for us, it's putting your head down and going to work. I just
Mhm.
don't think there's any substitute for hard work and doing it the right way. We believe
Mhm.
good things happen to good people, and we just try to treat people right. We don't apologize for being demanding, but at the same time, I think the proof's in the pudding.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned some really key, but what are some core values you emphasize with your players and your staff? You just mentioned accountability. You mentioned going to work. There are no shortcuts. I mean, everybody thinks there's a shortcut, or even with like artificial intelligence, there's a way to get around, but there's no shortcuts to hard work and doing the work and getting it done. But what are those core values you emphasize with your team and your staff?
Yeah, we have a saying, well, we have several, but it takes what it takes. I don't know that there's a specific formula, or if you do this, you do this, you get that. I think it takes what it takes. We have in our locker room, it's not what you do, but how you do it that
Mhm.
separates you, in my opinion, from the rest of the country. I'm pretty sure they're doing the same drill down at, you know, Connecticut, Tennessee, South Carolina, Georgia, wherever, same shell drill on defense. They're doing maybe some of the same shooting drills, but it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And
Mhm.
it's to me, it's all about I'm all about coaching the little things. I'm very big on footwork. I'm always trying to coach our kids on just the value of paying attention to detail. You know, I think the way we do scouting reports is a great example of, and our kids will tell you, we don't miss. I don't want them
Mhm.
coming over there in a timeout going, "Hey, coach, what are they doing? We didn't go through that." I
Mhm.
don't ever want that to happen in a game. I want to make
Mhm.
sure our kids are in a position to respond and react. They know it's coming. Here's how we're going to handle it, those kinds
Mhm.
of things. And so, every now and then somebody might put something new in, but again, you don't rise to the occasion. To me, you fall back on your fundamentals. And
Mhm.
that's what we try to instill around here is that 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 discipline of we're creating defense, especially as a learned response. One pass away, you're in denial. Two passes away, 1 foot in the lane. Three passes away, 2 feet in the lane. Shot goes up, butt in the gut. All of that part of defense is rebounding. You can make a miss, but if you don't get the rebound, that ain't no good.
Right.
So, finishing the play. But
Mhm.
all those things are really critical for us. Toughness is a big, big my kids don't like to be told they were punked. They don't like to be told somebody out toughed them. So we really try to encourage and coach and teach and develop toughness. Uh,
Uh-huh.
my teams throughout the course of my career have always been really good in March. A lot of teams, they get tired, they get beat up, they
Mhm.
fade. Our team gets stronger to the point where, we've been in 7 out of the last 8 Elite Eights, been to 3 Final Fours in that run. Our kids are always really, really good in March, in February. So I'm, I'm proud of our kids. I think they work extremely hard. If they were in here, they'd tell you, "Oh my God, we work really, really hard," and there's some truth to that. But again, winning is hard. Like,
Yeah.
winning is really hard, and there's just no that has anything that has any value, there's a price to pay. If you're gonna be great, if you're gonna be elite, if you're gonna be the best of the best, That's not given to you. You're gonna have to go earn it. So,
Yeah.
those are kinda some of the things that we talk about all the time, and we try to instill in our kids. Again, one of the things we talk about all the time is how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yes,
And,
sir.
we really try to instill that in them both on and off the floor.
Now, coach, you're a very relational guy, but you're also, like you said, you're a disciplinarian. You work really hard. How do you build trust with your players year after year?
Yeah, I think they would tell you, I'm passionate about what I do. I'm up here late at night during the season. I probably spend the night up here 4 nights a week in my office. I try to put them in the best position I can to be successful. I don't want them to ever be surprised by anything. But again, they know that when we step between the lines, we got things we got to get done. We got work to put in. But then when practice is over, practice is over. When we walk outside those lines on that court, we're not going to hold, grudges. That's over,
Yeah,
and we're going to leave it there. And
yeah.
I think they know that I care deeply about them. I've made the comment. I know I'm not their world, but they are mine,
Mhm,
and they are why I do what I do. And
mhm,
I take a great deal of responsibility for all of my kids, all of our players, our student
mhm.
athletes. I want them to be ready for the real world. I believe the
Yeah.
real world is a beautiful place most days, but
Mhm,
every now and then this world can rear its ugly head. And when it does, I think my kids are able to navigate that day pretty well. Whereas, some people when some kind of adversity hits, they can't handle it. And
mhm,
so, you know, again, I'm not only a coach, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a dad. A lot of the decisions that I make for these kids comes with parental instincts.
mhm,
So that's my promise to our parents of my current players as well as any recruits we may have is that,
mhm.
I we'll do our best to keep a good close eye on them and make sure nothing happens to them. 'Cause they're
No.
somebody's daughter. At the end of the day,
Yep.
they are somebody's daughter, and as a father and as a husband, I get that, and
Mm.
I understand that more than most.
Yeah. What's kind of the toughest challenge you faced as a coach?
Well, I think there's always, obviously the world changes, times change,
Yeah.
uh, more and more people seem to be involved with kids, parents, and those kinds of things. I think the toughest time I've had in coaching was the summer that I almost lost my son. So my
Mm,
daughter and my son are twins, and I was with Blair. She was playing at the time in the 14 and under AAU championships in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I
mhm,
got a phone call at 8:30 in the morning from the emergency room doctor in Crockett, Texas. Crockett, Texas is a little bitty town.
mhm,
Emergency room's probably as big as my office. And
mhm.
Dr. Cruzy called and said, "Coach, your son's just been brought in. He's unconscious, unresponsive, and seizing. Where would you like us to send him?" That's not a good phone call.
No, sir.
And, so, it's a really long, complicated story, but the bottom line is this: if my son were to walk in the door right now, you'd never know anything happened to him. But
Mhm,
for 39 days, and especially the first 4, he was on life support. He was,
mhm.
couldn't walk, couldn't talk, couldn't hold a fork in his right hand, drooling out the left side of his mouth. Life support for 4 days, intensive care for 11. Being the coach that's always, um, you know, put my team in the best position to be successful. I wanted to put my son in the best position to be successful and recover. So I did my scouting report on rehabilitation across the country, and we took him to Tier in Houston, which is the #1 rehab facility in America. And uh,
Yeah.
Dr. Ivanhoe was a highly recommended doctor and her team. And at that time, July is the recruiting period for us. My decision at that moment, I told my wife, I may not have a job when this is over, but I'm gonna have a son, and I
Yeah.
don't care how long it takes to get him back. I'm gonna stay with him. I'm gonna, I don't want anybody seeing him. I'm gonna control his environment. and help him the most and the best I can to get back to his self. And I didn't know that he'd ever get back to being normal. Didn't
Yeah.
know I didn't know what the outcome was going to be because, like I told you,
Mhm.
can't walk, can't talk, can't hold the fork in his right hand, drooling out of the
Yeah.
left side of his mouth. This is my
Yeah.
skinny waisted, broad shouldered baseball player son.
Yeah.
And he's
Mhm.
been in this horrific wakeboarding accident and he's had a brain injury. And so,
Wow.
but as I told you, I take him to tier. And within a week there, he walks unassisted down the hallway. And, 28 days later, he walks out of there like nothing ever happened to him
Yeah.
by walking, talking miracle. And, when it gets hard, when I think this job is my life, when I might lose a game and I'm wearing it and feeling sorry for myself, all I got to do is pick up the phone and call Logan and hear his voice.
Yeah.
And that's all I need to ground myself and help me realize what's really, truly important. And, there were so many miracles along the way when Logan was hurt. And,
Mhm.
I never, as bad as he was injured and as serious as he was in the condition he was in, I just never really felt panicked about it. And I just
Mhm.
felt like the good Lord had him in his hands and, he was gonna help us get through it. I always say it's the best coaching job I've ever done, but man, I played a small role in that miracle. The good Lord, like I said, he's my walking, talking miracle. There's all those miracles in the Bible. Logan
Yeah.
could have his own chapter in there
Yeah.
because he really and truly is a miracle. And I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. I never left him for 39 straight days. And
Mhm.
just the things that happen along the way. I have to tell you this part
Yes,
just
sir.
because I think it's important. So we took him in there on a Thursday. He gets evaluated on a Friday. At tier over the weekend, there is no rehab. It's a time of
Uh-huh.
rest. On Saturday morning, there's a knock at the door. And of course, I'm chomping on at the bit to get my son in rehab. He needs
Yeah.
to be worked with immediately. Um,
Mhm.
so I'm thinking we have to wait till Monday. And my son he's in a wheelchair. He
Yeah.
can't even pick his head up.
Yeah.
He's inaudible. And so there's a knock at the door and it's a guy in scrubs and it's a Bohemian guy. He's from the Bahamas. And
Yeah.
he says, "Hey, I'm so and so. I'm here for Logan Schaefer for rehab." Well, man, I was fired up. I was like, "All right, let's go." So we
Yeah.
put him in his wheelchair, take him down to the gym, and in the gym, there's 14 steps that go up to nothing over in the
Uh-huh.
corner of the gym, and so he wheels him over there, and he says, "All right, coach, you get in front of him. Here's a washcloth. You catch his drool. I'm going to get behind him, and we're going to walk up that flight of stairs." And I looked at him. I said, "You do realize when he stands up, he's going to fall down. He's going to
Uh-huh.
lean, and he doesn't have any balance." He
Yeah.
said, "Coach, I got him." So we get up. Logan puts his hands on the rails, pick his head up, and we go to plodding
Uh-huh.
one step after another, 14 steps that
Wow.
lead to nothing. And it takes him about 10 minutes. He gets to the top. Man, I'm coaching my butt off, screaming and hollering, "Way to go, son. Look what
Yeah.
you did. Way to go. You're great." Everything, my
Uh-huh.
wife's down at the bottom of the stairs with her phone, filming everything, bawling like a baby. We get to the top and I'm just ecstatic. "Way to go, Logan." And he looks at me out of the top of his eyelids because he can't pick his head up and he says,
Yeah.
"Now what?" And I
Yeah.
said, "Hey, man, we're going to turn around and go back down." Never
Yeah.
whimpered. We turn back around. We go back down. We get back down after another 10-minute. He plops it back in the chair. He is absolutely fried and exhausted. We go
Mhm.
back to the room, and that's the first night he
Mhm.
and I slept. We slept 6 hours. He and
Wow.
I did not sleep for 11 straight days. He had neuro sweats. He had the shakes so bad he would almost vibrate off the bed. That
Wow.
we went to bed and slept 6 hours for the first time. Here's the story.
Yeah.
Nobody knows who that guy is.
Really?
You can't find that rehab guy. He don't work for Tier. He's not on their staff. Like, I've tried to locate him. That's my angel. He showed up and out of nowhere, he took Logan and that was our first experience with rehab. We get back to the room and I can't find that guy. And there are stories like that throughout the course of Logan's story. But again, in coaching, we have so many things that we think are earth shattering, monumental,
Right.
my God, oh my God, oh my God. No, that was earth shattering. That was monumental. That could have
Oh,
been
yeah.
instrumental, could have changed the course of my life, my wife's life, our marriage, my
Yeah.
son's life, his twin daughters, his twin sister's life. We got through it. And I think, again, our faith, our trust, Logan's hard work, his commitment to his rehab are the things that got him through that. And so I can share that story with my team, which I do all the time. It's
Uh-huh.
not what happens to you, it's
Yeah.
how you respond.
Yeah.
That defines you. That's who you
Yeah.
are. That's your character.
Yeah.
And I tell that story all the time when I'm trying to maybe help them deal with something that's, some type of adversity or whatever. It's not the adversity, it's how you respond to that adversity that really defines you. And so, when you go through things like that, it's ironic that happened in the summer. That
Mhm.
next spring, we win the national championship at A&M. 9 months later, on
Wow.
the inside of my Final Four ring, they will write they will put your initials or they'll write a little slogan in there. Inside of my Final Four ring, it is written, "Life flighted to the Final Four."
Wow.
Because my son was life flighted that morning,
Yeah.
when I picked him
Mhm.
up from the boat at the lake
Yeah.
and took
Yeah.
him to the hospital. So,
Yeah.
you know, we all have things that happen to us. We all have challenges in life. That's kind of been the one that's really defined me, I
Mhm.
think. And again, um, what a blessing to have been able to. It was rough going through it, but I look back at it as a real blessing.
Man, coach, that is an awesome story. 2 last quick questions, coach, because one of them, the landscape of women's basketball has been changing like crazy. What advice do you give to these young players with the NIL, with all of that? As you look at how it's been changing, how have you adapted as a coach? But what advice would you give to some of these younger players that now with the with NIL, with all the deals, all this money floating around that usually you got to wait 4 more years for, and now it's coming down into the high school, college level game. What advice do you give to those players
Well,
through
yeah,
recruiting?
I think again, we believe here at Texas, we still work under the premise of, we believe in relationships. These kids, they need to be allowed to be kids. Like,
Hmm.
if they want to take a nap in college, they should be able to take a nap at college. They get pulled on so many different directions. And look, I'm all for them making money and getting what they can get. That's fine. But I think what's been lost on the whole deal is this idea. Somebody told me the other day, there's some recruit that's told everybody that'll listen, I'm going to transfer every year and go to the most money. Well, I mean, what's that teach anybody? You have no, and so I don't, for us, to me, there's a value in the degree that you're getting. There's a
Yeah.
value in the contacts that you're going to make while you're here at the University of Texas. There's
Hmm.
a value in the people that you meet, the CEOs, the presidents, the
Hmm.
marketing directors of these
Right.
companies that you're going to do deals with, not
Yeah.
just showing up and saying, "Hey, I'm going to give you this much money. You ain't got to do a thing for it." My best players, while they might make the most money, they really are in a great place because they value the relationships that they're making, because
Mhm.
they are mature enough and their parents are so good. They know
Mhm.
the ball's going to stop one day. It's going to stop
Yeah,
bouncing. And
yeah,
what are you going to have when the ball stops bouncing? Well, you
exactly.
have a legacy. Have you left a legacy where you played? Have you left a legacy in the community in which you played in that
Mhm,
might be the community that's supporting you in
mhm,
some of those deals that you're making? And so for us, I just think that we really do truly value the relationship piece, the
mhm.
trust, because at the end of the day, what hasn't changed, this is
Yeah,
somebody's daughter.
yeah.
So for us, it's who's going to be their mentors, who's going
Mhm,
to be their role models, that they come up to the office every day and they see my staff and
mhm,
see how they are in the workplace. They are
mhm.
pros, not pro basketball players. They're
Yeah,
professionals in the workplace. And
yeah.
so again, I think when you talk when we think about what we have to offer here at Texas, it's the total package. Certainly, kids are going to have an opportunity to make quite a bit of money, but then they're
Mhm,
also going to get a great education. They're going to
mm,
be exposed to so many unique and different people, professionals, like I
mhm.
said, CEOs, presidents of corporations, marketing
Right.
directors, that when the ball does stop bouncing, those people are going to have a relationship with you and they potentially could be the next person that either work for you or you work for
Mhm,
them. And
mhm,
so I just think there's a real value to who we are, to the brand that we have that is Texas. This Steerhead
mhm.
is the second most recognizable logo in all of sport. The Dallas Cowboy star is number one. This
Yeah.
logo is number two, and Major League Baseball patch is number three. So there's a value to that. Does it
Mhm,
pay anything right now? No, but
mhm.
it will. So I think for us, again, I'm all for these kids, being able to earn money through their name, image, and likeness. And there's no question that
Mhm.
that's a great thing for them. But I also think we've gotten so far ahead of ourselves and we haven't thought it out properly that, if I was to leave, well, I have a
Mhm.
buyout in my contract,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
these kids can leave every 9 months if they want to. There's no
Right.
repercussion. They don't, if
When there's no accountability.
it gets hard, they can just up and leave. And I'm not saying in some circumstance, it's probably they might need to,
Yeah.
but not in every circumstance. For the person that's saying, "Man, I'm going to college and I'm leaving every year and I'm going to the highest," I'm not sure you're getting the value of a college education and you're maturing in a world that's not the real world.
Yeah.
No. And so that's, I think, a concern that all of us coaches throughout the industry have, is teaching that piece of the value of learning how to get through some adversity, learning to get through some toughness, develop some toughness, those kinds of things. And again, there are exceptions where people should be able to go if if it's just not a good situation or a great fit or they're being
Mhm.
mistreated. No question of
Yeah.
they should be
Yeah.
able to do that.
Absolutely. Coach, you've talked through this interview about your faith and hearing that story about Logan and God sending that. I mean, look, I hear stories about that all the time. I'm really encouraged by a lot of the things that you're posting on Facebook or whatever, your daily readings. But as a Christian coach, talk about how that has affected you as and how you coach every day. And and how's making decisions. Yeah, I mean, you have to make tough decisions, right? There's a lot of young women in this country that are really good, but only 3 or 4 are gonna make it on that roster at Texas every year. But how does your relationship with God affect how you coach?
Well, I mean, again, his most precious commodity is children. He says that in the Bible. And
Mhm.
so I think you've got to realize these are somebody's daughter.
Yeah.
It's somebody's daughter. Again, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a dad. So I certainly understand that when Blair was coming up and was going to get to play college basketball, She could have gone a lot of places, won a lot of games. I could have
Mhm.
cared less about that. I was more concerned about who was going to be her role model, who was
Mhm.
going to be her mentors, who was going to be around her every day to really make sure that they helped mold her into the young woman that she was going to become. But in my mind, knowing how precious God's children are to him, I honor that. I try to honor that because I certainly don't want him unhappy with me. And,
That's right.
at the same time, I think part of love is discipline.
Yeah.
And I know my parents loved me dearly, but within that love was structure, commitment, hard work,
Mhm.
discipline. And I think those are the things again that we try to instill in our young ladies. And then, we have quite a few kids that come from Christian homes,
Mhm.
and so providing them that same opportunity here, if they grew up in the church at home, I want them to have that same opportunity here. The thing
Mhm.
I dislike more than anything is the fact that we play on Sundays in the SEC. I
Yeah.
just think that's a travesty. And 2 months, 3 months from, January, February, and part of March, these kids can't go to church on Sunday because 'cause they're gotta play a basketball game. I
Yeah.
can't go to church, my staff can't go to church because we have to work. And to me,
Yeah.
that's we're all in most of the SEC is in the Bible Belt. To me, there's some other things too that go along with that. They don't get a true day off. Uh,
Mhm.
their off day's Monday. Well, Monday, they gotta go to class. They might have
Yeah.
a physics test.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's not a day off. So their
Yeah.
bodies physically don't get a chance to recover. You know,
Right.
other people across the country play Wednesday, Saturday, for instance.
Yeah.
So it's problematic for me. Um,
Yeah.
I fight that conflict with my faith. And one of the things I loved about being in my previous conference because we played Wednesday, Saturday, and
Yeah.
it allowed me to allow my staff to have Sunday off. If they wanted to
Mhm.
go to church, they could. My kids could. I
Yeah.
definitely did, but
Yeah.
it's just something that we have to navigate right now. But I think my kids know. Again, I'm a poor, miserable sinner. I'm not perfect, but I
Yeah.
think know that I believe in God. They know I'm a Christian. They know that they know my faith. We pray as a team before team meals. We pray as a team if someone within our family is needing prayer. And
Mhm.
so it's just something that I expose them to. I think again, most of them have been brought up in that type of home. I give our parents a ton of credit
Mhm.
because they brought their children up in that type of environment. So when they come here, that's not unusual for them. You know what? Some of them, again, I think on a Sunday would love to be in church. And I know up until now, some of them have been. And I like
Yeah.
to think I think back to when I was a kid in college, it was easy for me to stray away from going to church because mom and dad weren't making me go.
Yeah.
Um, and so to see some of my players making an effort to get up on a Sunday morning and go to church,
Mhm.
it's very gratifying for me. And so again, we don't make them do anything, but they certainly, I think, know they're in this kind of environment.
No, this is great. Coach, we really appreciate your time. I know we're getting ready to go into the season and stuff. Thank you so much for being on our show. This has been great. We really appreciate you. And I love following you, Coach. It's great, man.
Well, appreciate your time today. Thank you so much. It was really an honor and a privilege to be on today. And thank you again for all you do for our great game. Okay.
Thanks,
Praise the
Coach.
Lord and hook 'em